Run your finger along the bottom of your jaw, right at the front. You'll feel a small bump of bone that sticks out past your teeth. A gorilla doesn't have it. A chimpanzee doesn't have it. A Neanderthal, your closest extinct cousin, didn't have it either. No mammal on Earth, alive or extinct, has anything quite like it. Only one species ever evolved this strange little piece of bone. You. And after more than 100 years of trying, scientists still cannot agree on what it is for. Which is strange, because the chin is not hidden. It is sitting on the front of your face right now. For most of the last century, the answer seemed like it had to be obvious. We have language. We have huge brains. We have hands that build cities. Surely the chin was on the list. Surely it did something. So researchers proposed the natural candidates. Maybe the chin braced the jaw for chewing tough food. Maybe it anchored a tongue that suddenly had to produce speech. Maybe it was a fight-ready buttress that helped us take punches. Maybe it was a sexual ornament, a feature mates were drawn to. For more than a century, researchers tried to solve it. One by one, the theories collapsed. Start with chewing. This was the first serious theory, and for a long time, it was the favorite. The logic seemed clean. The lower jaw takes enormous force every time you bite down. A bony reinforcement at the front of the jaw could brace against that force. It made sense. It was teachable. It showed up in textbooks for decades. Then researchers measured the jaw growth of dozens of people, from toddlers to adults. They tracked bone density. They modeled the bite forces. They ran the math. And the result was the opposite of what the theory predicted. Chins do not get stronger against chewing forces as a person grows. They get weaker. The bone is in the wrong place to brace against biting. If anything, the chin makes the jaw slightly worse at resisting the forces of eating. The chewing theory was dead. And the puzzle got worse, because if the chin is not for chewing, what is it for? The next candidate was speech. Now this one is interesting. Humans are the only species that talks. Humans are the only species with chins. The idea was that a speaking tongue puts new kinds of stress on the inside of the jaw. The chin would be the bone responding to that stress, growing outward to anchor the muscles that move the tongue during speech. But when researchers looked at where the tongue muscles actually attach, they did not attach to the chin at all. They attach higher up, on the inside of the jaw. The bone that supports speech is not the bone that sticks out. And babies have chins too. Not full adult chins, but the bone is there in the womb, months before a baby has ever made a word. A feature that develops before speech is unlikely to be a feature for speech. The speech theory was dead. 2 theories down. The chin still had no purpose. Then someone proposed something a little wilder. What if the chin was for fighting? Look, humans do hit each other. We have been doing it for a very long time. Maybe the face evolved to take a punch. The argument was that early humans, especially males, took hits to the face. A reinforced chin could absorb a blow. Over thousands of generations, the men with stronger chins survived more fights, had more children, and passed the trait on. It is the kind of theory that sounds great at a dinner party. It explains why the chin is bony. It explains why men's chins are larger. It even gives the chin a tough evolutionary backstory. But chins crack about as easily as the rest of the jaw. Forensic studies of facial injuries do not show the chin protecting the face. And women have chins too. And they were not historically the ones throwing punches in fights for mates. The punch theory was dead. One theory remained. Maybe the chin was simply attractive, a sexual ornament, like a peacock's tail, but smaller and on your face. It is not a crazy idea. Across cultures, a defined jawline is often considered handsome, a strong chin in a man, a softer chin in a woman. Sexual selection is responsible for some of the most extreme features in the animal kingdom. Peacock feathers, elk antlers. Why not the human chin? But here is the problem. Sexual selection shapes traits that appear at mating age. The chin is already there in infants. It is forming in the womb. A feature that develops before puberty in both sexes is the wrong kind of feature to be a mating signal. By the end of it, every major chin theory had failed the same test. The chin was not for chewing, it was not for speech, it was not for fighting, it was not for mating. So if the chin is not for any of those things, what is it for? And here is where the answer becomes unsettling. The chin might not be for anything at all. The same study that killed the chewing theory found something else. The chin is not built by any force at all. It is built by absence. Modern human faces are about 15% shorter than Neanderthal faces. As our ancestors evolved, the entire midface, the cheekbones, the upper jaw, the area around the nose, pulled inward and got smaller. The teeth got smaller. The jaw got smaller. But the bottom edge of the jaw did not shrink at the same rate. Picture a tide going out. The water, your jaw, your teeth, your midface pulled back across thousands of years. What was left exposed on the beach was the chin. It did not grow outward. Everything else retreated. Biologists have a name for features like this. They are called spandrels, accidents of geometry, pieces of anatomy that exist not because evolution selected them, but because evolution selected something next to them. The chin, in this view, is one of the most famous spandrels in your body, a leftover, the shadow of a face that shrank away. But that just pushes the question back one step, because now the real question is not why the chin sticks out, it is why our faces shrank in the first place. To understand what happened to the human face, you have to look at what happened to other animals when they stopped being wild. Wolves became dogs. Their snouts shortened, their teeth got smaller, their faces softened. Wild boars became pigs. Same pattern. Shorter snouts, smaller jaws, softer bones. Decades ago, in a famous experiment in Siberia, scientists began breeding silver foxes for one trait only: tameness. Within 10 generations, the foxes' faces had shortened, their ears had flopped, their coats had turned patchy. They had selected for behavior, and the body had followed. This is one of the strangest patterns in mammal biology. Across many species, when an animal becomes calmer and more cooperative, its face gets smaller, its bones get thinner, its skull becomes more juvenile-looking. Tameness and short faces travel together, somewhere deep in the developmental code of mammals. Researchers looked at more than 1,000 human skulls spanning the last 80,000 years. They were looking for a pattern. They found one. Roughly 50,000 years ago, around the same time human culture exploded with cave paintings, jewelry, long-distance trade, and complex tools, human faces began to soften. Brow ridges shrank, jaws shortened, skulls became less robust. The exact same pattern as the foxes, the same pattern as the dogs, the same pattern as the pigs. What scientists proposed is that something domesticated us, except no one was holding the leash. We did it to ourselves. As human groups grew larger and more cooperative, the calmer, less aggressive individuals had more children. Over thousands of generations, our species selected itself for tolerance, and the face came along for the ride. The chin is the receipt, a small, bony reminder of the moment our ancestors stopped being the kind of animal that solved problems with its teeth. Not every scientist agrees. The self-domestication theory is still debated. The spandrel theory is still debated. Some researchers think the chin must have had a function we have not yet discovered. Some think it is a side effect of how a baby's mouth has to stay open to breathe while it nurses. Some think it is the byproduct of forces deeper in the skull that we still do not understand. A recent review went through the whole debate again. It reached the same conclusion researchers had reached almost a decade earlier. None of the explanations are fully convincing. Not the adaptive ones, not the spandrel ones. Not yet. But whether the chin is a spandrel, a self-domestication signature, or something stranger we have not found yet, every theory points to the same uncomfortable fact. We tend to assume the things that make us human were built for reasons. Big brain, for thinking. Upright spine, for walking. Opposable thumbs, for tools. The story is always purpose, but the chin breaks that story. It might be the only part of your body that exists for no reason at all, or for a reason so quiet that the fossils may never give it up. Every other human species, Neanderthal, Denisovan, erectus, floresiensis, lived and died without one. They had bigger faces, heavier jaws, more powerful bites. They were stronger animals than we are, and every one of them is gone. We are the smaller-faced ones, the softer ones, the ones who tamed ourselves. And the only piece of bone that proves it is sitting on your face right now.